A very good evening to you and welcome to our primetime news. I'm Sandro Ferdinando.
And I'm Rahna Farouk. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Navy commander says that the staff aboard the Avantgarde floating armory failed to provide credible information. President calls for media freedom without political interference. Constitutional Council nominates members to 4 commissions. Prime Minister says a 2-day debate will be held over the UN Human Rights Report.
The 60th anniversary celebrations of the Sri Lanka Press Association was held at the BMICH today.
President Maithripala Sirisena was the chief guest for the event. Minister of Mass Media Gayantha Karunatilaka, officials and journalists were among those present for the event.
Over the past decades, journalists had to sacrifice themselves for media freedom. Some lost their limbs while some disappeared. I need to mention that as a new government, we will establish right to operate freely in the media sector. In the past, there were the white van abductions, the influences made over the phone, the instructions and orders that were given for the headlines. We are aware of what took place. We are also aware of the telephone conversations that took place to write against one's own cabinet of ministers. At the United Nations Human Rights Council, the resolution on Sri Lanka was adopted. However, at that time, the extremist politicians in the country attempted to drive away the victory of what we achieved. However, I am thankful for the media for operating in a wise manner during that time period.
මම ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා පහුගිය දින කීපය අපේ රටේ මාධ්‍ය ඉතාමත්ම බුද්ධිමත් ලෙස කටයුතු කළා කියලා හිතනවා.
Awards were presented to 10 veteran journalists to mark the 60th anniversary celebrations of the Sri Lanka Press Association. A painting by veteran artist Tilak Kaluliyanage was also presented to the president at the event.
Navy Commander Vice Admiral Ravindra Vijay Gunaratne says that the floating armory of the Avantgarde, which entered Sri Lankan waters without prior notification, has been seized by the Sri Lankan Navy for investigations. When Newsfirst contacted the Navy commander, he said that investigations are taking place under the directives of the President and the Secretary of the Defence.
The vessel Avantgarde had entered into Sri Lankan radar several days ago, and since the 5th, the Navy had been monitoring the movements of the vessel entering Sri Lankan waters. The Sri Lankan flagged vessel has been identified by the Sri Lanka Navy as the floating armory known as Avantgarde and says that it had entered the Sri Lankan territory from Sudan without prior notification. The Sri Lanka Navy, which acted immediately, had inquired details from the vessel. Navy commander went on to say that when it inquired for reasons for the vessel to enter the Galle harbour, the vessel in response said that it wanted to disembark the sailors and hand over the vessel to Sri Lanka. According to Marine Traffic website, the Avantgarde floating armory had been moving from Sudan to Colombo. However, it had failed to provide reasons for changing its course towards Galle. When the Navy had inquired about the weapons aboard the vessel, the response it received was that there were no weapons on board. The Sri Lanka Navy boarded the vessel on the 6th, 114 nautical miles away from the Galle harbour. The Navy commander said that the Navy personnel had made a discovery of a weapons cache of 810 firearms. The crew aboard the Avantgarde vessel had said that the weapons belonged to Raknal Arakshaka Lanka. Although a Sri Lankan was listed as the skipper of the vessel, investigations have revealed that a Ukrainian national was in fact at the helm of the vessel. The Navy commander of the Sri Lanka Navy went on to say that the crew had been instructed by the company to maintain the vessel's location at 12 nautical miles away from the shores and not to respond to any calls made by the Sri Lankan Navy. Navy commander Vice Admiral Ravindra Vijay Gunaratne said that the vessel is being held by the Navy for investigations. According to the Navy commander, the vessel in question had been moving in close range to the Maldives, and he pointed out that if the vessel was seized by a navy from another nation, it could have led to more serious issues. On its website, Avantgarde Maritime Services lists that it operates 3 vessels for marine security purposes. One of those vessels was the floating armory anchored at the Galle harbour that was at the centre of much controversy. The website also speaks of a floating armory, MV Avantgarde, maintaining a stationary position in the Red Sea, and another floating armory, MV Seapole 1, in the Gulf of Oman. The vessel that was seized by the Navy is named Avantgarde. Port Authority says that the controversial floating armory in the Galle harbour, MV Mahanwara, has been released from its custody and is being considered as a common vessel. Making a submission before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry to look into large-scale corruption and fraud, Damayanti Jayaratne, a former additional secretary to the Ministry of Defence, had accepted that firearms to the Rakna Arakshaka Lanka company was provided in violation of the usual legal practice. It was also revealed that 3,473 weapons had been provided to Rakna Arakshaka Lanka and only 89 of them have licenses. Letters by former Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Defence Damayanti Jayaratne dated the 18th of September 2012 revealed more information on Avantgarde. She had addressed these letters to then Navy Commander, the heads of Avantgarde and all private naval security services institutions. According to these letters, all private naval security services had been requested to shut down all their armories maintained in the Sri Lankan maritime boundary and only permitted Avantgarde to operate a floating armory. The Sri Lanka Navy was vested with the task of monitoring the floating armory and protecting it from outside threats. However, all administrative tasks were carried out directly by Avantgarde.
Take a look at the Avantgarde issue. Who is involved in this issue as well? A Rajapaksa. This time it's Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Rather than filing cases against 5 persons, the AG's department is attempting to sweep this issue under the carpet completely. When society speaks of this, what action does the government take? Ranil Wickremesinghe called for a report. Where is that report? The government must clarify its stance. A vessel named Avantgarde has entered Sri Lankan waters. After that, the Navy made arrests. Then it was said that there are weapons aboard the vessel. Can I have a gun in my possession? However, T-56 and AK-47 firearms have been maintained in their thousands. However, action has not been taken against the persons who were there. The law has not been implemented. The number of weapons discovered when the vessel was seized and when the armory at the BMSCH was raided are 3 times of what was handed over to that company. Are these not wrongs? We direct these questions to the AG. We made a request to shut down these institutions and vest the Navy with that task to earn a revenue to the nation. That will be around 15 million rupees a day. Special Satana program on the Avantgarde issue will be aired tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. on our sister channel Sirasa TV.
Council has forwarded the names of members nominated to the Bribery, Police, Public Service and Human Rights Commissions to President Maithripala Sirisena for approval.
Issuing a communique today, it adds that all 10 members of the Constitutional Council had gathered this morning at the Parliament premises and reached a final decision regarding the members of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, Human Rights Commission, Public Service Commission and National Police Commission. A decision was taken to immediately forward the recommendations to the President. The Constitutional Council is set to reconvene on the 4th of November to make a decision on the remaining independent commissions.
The Speaker informed the MPs who have been appointed as the Committee on High Posts. Officials who will be appointed to the high posts will have to be approved by the Working Committee.
Matusanhan Mantrin, Mage Sabapatittu Atua, Usas Nilitada Pirimanda Karaka Sabavi.
The names mentioned below have been appointed to the Committee on High Posts in Parliament. Honourable John Amartunga, Honourable Nimal Siripala de Silva, Honourable Rauf Hakim, Honourable Lakshman Kirialla, Honourable Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, Honourable Manu Ganeshan, Honourable Dr. Sarat Tamunugama, Honourable Dinesh Gunawardana, Honourable Vijita Herath, Honourable Bimal Ratnayaka, Honourable Mavi Senadiraja and Honourable Dharmalingam Siddhartha.
Ratnayaka Mahata, Garu Mavi Senadiraja Mahata, Garu Dharmalingam Siddhartha Mahata.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe stated in Parliament today that a 2-day debate will be held on the United Nations Human Rights Report.
The government was requested to decide on the dates to debate on the UN Human Rights Council report. The party leaders were in favour of discussing and debating this in the next parliamentary week under an adjournment motion. The Presidential Secretariat will provide the Paranagama report and the Udalagama report. However, the reports have not been translated into Sinhala and Tamil. If we are to debate this in the next parliamentary week, we can only produce the 3 English copies of the reports. If the required copies are prepared and given to us on Tuesday, we can have a debate on Thursday and Friday. The government will inform the adjournment motion debate.
Minister Sajith Premadasa attended an event in the Uduvila area in Tissamaharama today.
This event was organised in the Uduvila area in Tissamaharama to welcome Minister Sajith Premadasa.
They say that the current government has given permission for a hybrid court. They say that we have allowed foreign nations to interfere into local affairs and that we have involved foreign judges to investigate into the cases that should be solved locally. I would like to state clearly that all these allegations are levelled by useless politicians. What you had in the past was not a hybrid foreign policy that consisted of 2 faces, but a foreign policy that had 5 faces.
A special event was held to mark the 200th edition of the Newsfirst classroom workshop. The event was held in Nivantaka Chethiya in Anuradhapura.
The 200th edition of the Newsfirst classroom workshop was held in Nivantaka Chethiya in Anuradhapura yesterday. Today's event was presided by S.T. Veerasekara, a group director of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited. The event was made more colourful with the participation of students of schools that are in the vicinity of the area.
The services rendered by you to educate the local students on communication is highly appreciated. Furthermore, the services carried out by your organisation to highlight and provide solutions to the issues faced by the society is much appreciated.
The journey we commenced 5 years ago from the Akurasa Mahavidyalaya has not been an easy task. Our teams encountered various obstacles when conducting this project, but this did not stop us from achieving our objective. Following the 200th edition of this project come next year, we hope to reinforce and conduct this project even better.
CEO of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, Mohan Barara, also made a special statement.
Our schools and other institutions in big towns and backed by powerful forces churn out smart young people almost like a manufacturing assembly line. But the output of schools and other institutions in far-flung areas, so to say, not right under the sun, require a helping hand to stand up in this competitive world to get their due share. Recognizing the need for external support in the not in the limelight institutions, Newsfirst started the classroom program of supporting schools in deep rural areas. We are glad to say today we are starting this program at the 200th school. The Capital Maharaja Organisation and its media, Sirasa, Shakti, MTV, SFM, YFM, Newsfirst, have been in the forefront in giving back to society a little bit so as to provide a better tomorrow to all whose lives we touch. What other better way than nurturing these young future pillars of the country? We are proud of our commitment to support not just those in dire straits, as in calamities, but also those who, given the right sunshine at the right time, will aspire to outshine all else. There is no greater satisfaction than in giving.
Our value as Sri Lankans to the world is if we protect our culture, we need to understand the value of our country, the value of the villages, and to protect those values. We could conduct many lectures, the teachers could educate, yet we could all show where the boat is and where the oars are, but these students will have to row it.
Guest lectures were delivered by Sirasa FM Program Director Nihal Vikramadiri Surya and YFM Manager Charmika Roshan. A painting by a school student was presented to Newsfirst as a mark of gratitude.
The Newsfirst classroom, which was inaugurated 5 years ago, marked an important milestone today with its 200th workshop aimed at creating better persons for the field of communication equipped with leadership qualities. Here's a brief look at the journey of the Newsfirst classroom.
The 24th of October 2010 marked the start of a revolution in school media. On that day, the first edition of the Newsfirst classroom workshop kicked off at the Akurasa Mahavidyalaya, and since then workshops have been conducted in every corner of the island regardless of language or location in order to quench the thirst for knowledge that students possess. The Newsfirst team conducted the workshop in Sinhala, Tamil and English in order to be more accessible to all students of Sri Lanka. The 50th edition of the Newsfirst classroom workshop took place at St. Mary's College in Matugama, while the 75th edition was conducted at the Kotapula Mahavidyalaya. The 100th edition was held with much grandeur on the 3rd of July 2014 at the Pinnavala National School with the aim of developing the media literacy of the current generation. The 150th edition of the Newsfirst classroom workshop took place in the cool climate of the central province at the Kengalla Mahavidyalaya, while the 175th edition took place at the Haliyala National School. In an era where communication technology is rapidly evolving, we at Newsfirst made it our responsibility to conduct this series of workshops in order to enrich the media literacy of students of Sri Lanka. We at Newsfirst took steps to train students in the practical aspects of media and even held workshops at our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. That is why the Newsfirst classroom workshop, which taught the fundamentals of media and communication to the future leaders of our country in order to enrich their knowledge, receives the praise of scholars in the field of media.
මේ විචාරශීලී අත්දැකීම ජනමාධ්‍යයක මනා පුහුණුවක් ලත් කෙනෙකුට.
A program of this nature cannot be conducted even by a trained and qualified teacher who has media experience. It is in this environment that the Newsfirst classroom workshop concept was launched by the Sirasa Media Network, which provides a much broader platform for this purpose.
නමින් හැඳින්වෙන මේ සංකල්පය මනා වැඩදායක ශක්ති සම්පන්න ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ක්‍රියයි මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
සංවේදන කුසලතා දියුණු කරගන්න ඔවුන්ගේ නායකත්ව සහ සංග්‍රහ.
If there is a national program to develop the communication skills, leadership and organizational skills, as well as public relations skills of students, I think that will help develop the human resource of our country to a great extent.
විශාල අවස්ථාවක් ඇති කරනවායි කියලායි මට හිතෙන්නේ.
අසිරස මෑත කාලය තුලම අපි දැකපු දෙයක් තමයි සමාජීය වගකීම කියන්නේ.
In recent days, we have seen how Sirasa as an organization fulfills its social responsibility with much enthusiasm and dedication. It is great to see that Sirasa has reached out to the future generation of this country and taught them how to interact and understand media.
කෙසේදයි කියන එක පිළිබඳව කටයුතු කරපු ආකාරය තමත්ම ප්‍රශංසනීයයි.
සිරස මාධ්‍ය ආයතනයෙන් මෙහෙවනු ලබන මේ වැඩමුළු.
Today we live in a global village, and this workshop conducted by Sirasa will help create, develop and mold good leaders. I believe that leaders are like trees. These student leaders are still tender shoots and have to be nurtured in the proper manner, so that they will grow to be strong trees and provide shelter and protection to the public as a whole.
ලබා දෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා මම විශ්වාස කරනවා.
පාසල් දරුවන්ට තේ ලැබෙන අධ්‍යාපනය මම හිතන්නේ
I think the education children receive in school will help decide the manner in which society is built. This education also helps form one's character and thought school. It is important that students are media literate. I think that the Newsfirst classroom workshop is addressing a very important national service.
වැදගත් ජාතික මෙහෙවරක් මම හිතන්නේ නිවුස්ෆර්ස්ට් මාධ්‍ය වැඩමුළු ඔස්සේ සිදුවෙන.
The campaign titled For Our Children to ensure the protection of children and build a better future for the children entered its 5th day today. This island-wide awareness campaign is organised by Newsfirst together with the Ministry of Law and Order and Prison Reform.
For our children.
Children are the future of our country and the world. It is our responsibility to ensure that the children of today are equipped with knowledge to become the leaders of the future generation. The island-wide awareness campaign was organized by Newsfirst together with the Ministry of Law and Order and Prison Reforms to raise an understanding among the masses on their responsibility. One stage of the island-wide awareness campaign took place today, centering the Kandy district. The campaign was launched with the initiative of spreading awareness on the protection of our children amongst parents and teachers. We need to always keep a watch on what the children do and where they are going. The campaign by the Sirasa Media Network is an eye-opener for us parents. The program, which commenced at 9 this morning at the Henrico Bekadua Primary School in Kiribat Kumbura in Kandy, went on to conclude the day's campaign at St. Anthony's College in Katugastota. The public was educated on the protection of children at the Jumma Mosque in Marvel Mada. Our team travelled across Katugastota, spreading awareness on child protection. Our Newsfirst team went from door to door educating the public on how to protect children from the physical threat of violence and abuse. Yet another stage of the campaign took place in the district of Vavuniya today. The people of the Nedinkani, Suduvendan, Periykulam and Maharambekulam areas were also informed on the need for the protection of our children. This is a good program and the children will be protected.
This is a good way to protect the children.
Our team, which arrived at the Pudukkulam Primary School, educated parents and teachers on the protection of children. Another stage of the For Our Children campaign took place this afternoon in the centre of the town, where stickers with the numbers 1929, the hotline to contact when reporting a case of child abuse or violence, were pasted in shops, public places and on vehicles.
People need to contact this hotline only if there is an emergency against a child. Children are sexually, physically and mentally harassed and neglected at times. We request the masses to first inquire into these facts before making the phone call to the emergency hotline.
For Our Children, an island-wide awareness program to ensure the protection of children. The campaign will arrive in Mathale and Trincomalee on the 10th of October at 9 am, Ankumura at 12 noon, and Pannagamua and Muttur at 4 p.m. Organized by Newsfirst, Sirasa, Shakti and the Ministry of Law and Order and Prison Reforms. This could be your child. Let's protect them. For our children.
The special envoy of the Chinese government, Vice Foreign Minister Liu Zhenmin, addressed media personnel in Colombo today and commented on Sri Lanka-China relationships.
China-Sri Lanka friendship has come this far thanks to the joint effort of successive leaders of both countries and genuine support from the two peoples. Such friendship should be cherished dearly. With the Asian economy thriving on the whole and our two countries pursuing development and national renewal in order to enhance the traditional friendship and deepen win-win cooperation between China and Sri Lanka, this serves the common interests of both countries and the region as a whole. The Sri Lankan leaders value China's important contribution over the years to social and economic development of Sri Lanka. They highly appreciate China's cooperation with Sri Lanka in building a number of major infrastructure projects. They regard China as a trustworthy and countable development partner for Sri Lanka. On its own part, China will continue to do its best in providing assistance to Sri Lanka in various fields of development so as to achieve inclusive and common development.
Issuing a statement, V. Ananda Sangari says that political prisoners who have been imprisoned for years need to be pardoned and released.
The General Secretary of the TULF goes on to say that if the previous governments had followed the principles of good governance, the people would not have engaged in struggles and the youth would not have taken up arms. He goes on to say that persons who were directed in the wrong path have been branded as accused and are languishing in prisons. However, the persons who steered them in the wrong direction are living in luxury. He questions that when persons facing charges for serious crimes are pardoned and released, why aren't political prisoners being pardoned and released?
Deshabandhu Patrick Amarasinghe, doyen of Sri Lankan entrepreneurship, passed away this morning. The godfather of entrepreneurship, as he was known, boasted of many faceted career as an accountant, entrepreneur, exporter, trade chamber leader, nationalist and social entrepreneur, as was an 83-year-old at the time of his demise.
The late Patrick Amarasinghe, who has a high sense of social responsibility, founded the National Chamber of Exporters as a voice for exporters. As president of the NCE, he initiated the prestigious and much looked forward NCE Annual Export Awards and the popular Exporter magazine.
The biggest asset that we have in this country is our children.
Patrick Amarasinghe introduced the renowned Junior Achievement Worldwide program spread over 112 countries as Young Entrepreneurs Sri Lanka. He also initiated the annual Entrepreneur of the Year Award scheme at provincial and national level and established the non-profit organization Young Entrepreneurs Sri Lanka in 1998 to empower school children and university students on entrepreneurship. The late Patrick Amarasinghe was also a guest on BizFirst in Focus last year.
I had the guts that I never gave up. So an entrepreneur should never give up. It's not easy being an entrepreneur. You have to be at it all the time. Some people have a lot of luck in entrepreneurship, but there are other people who have been doing a lot of hard work. But to have a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates, I think you have to have people who are innovative who will come up now. So very few people are coming up with innovative stuff in Sri Lanka.
Late Mr. Patrick Amarasinghe was a man of vision. He had a very clear mission and a vision for developing the export sector in Sri Lanka. Not only the export sector, but also the business sector in the country. Not only the National Chamber of Exporters, but also the Federation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry in Sri Lanka. He headed for a long time. A man of integrity, dynamism. Above all, he is a real gentleman. He fought for the cause of exporters in this country, and he was very successful. It was a great loss to the country.
The remains of late Patrick Amarasinghe lie at a private funeral parlour in Borella. The funeral will be held at the Borella Cemetery tomorrow at 4 p.m.
And with that, we are our primetime news. I'm Sandaru Ferdinando.
And I'm Rakhna Farooq. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant night.
Thank you.